Welcome to A Woman's Brew. In today's episode, we will be discussing the controversial subject of supermarket beers. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hiya.
And we are two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us. Hello, this is actually future Joanne and future Tori. We just wanted to let you know that we recorded this episode about supermarket beers in September, and we're at September 2020, around about that time. We're now publishing it for you in December 2020 because we had so much other content that was way more time sensitive that we wanted to get that to you first. However, everything that we say in this podcast, we still stand by. We stand
by 100%. You can quote me on that. You can still fight me over whatever I probably told you could fight me about. And I've always wanted to time travel, so there we go. We've time traveled.
And we still support our independent bottle shops, but encourage you that if you're doing your weekly shopping, there's some craft beer, pick that up for your fridge fillers, or encourage your non-craft beer friends to buy it to get them into craft. That's how we hook them in. So carry on doing that. The beers that we talk about may not be the newest hype ones from the supermarkets now. There's more.
Such is the life of supermarket new hotness, and the competition between mostly Morrisons and Tesco. I mean, it's rolled on so quickly. What we talked about at the time and being unable to get, it's like now it's been rolled out into supermarkets, and there's another new hotness that we won't even mention because it will just date it even further.
Even more.
It'll be another new hotness that's come out that people can't get a hold of and everything else. So especially with the Christmas time, everything else being announced. So let that be noted for the record.
But here is what we have to say about supermarket beers, so go and enjoy
and let us know if there's anything else, because we only touched such a small fraction of the whole supermarket controversy at the time. We only really dipped a toe in. If there's anything else that you can think of that you want to hear us weigh in on with our ramblings, let us know. If there's any hotness out currently at the moment when you're listening to it that you want us to try to get and give our feedback on, let us know. We'll do it. Any feedback we really appreciate and we'll take on board. So go and listen to our episode and hopefully you enjoy it.
So in today's episode we are going to be talking about the hot topic of supermarket beers. Everyone's talking about this at the moment because Tesco's and Morrisons have been upping their game with what craft beers they are stocking. We aren't going to do as much beer tasting today. It's going to be a bit more chatty. So we've already cracked open the beer. I think we both got Pondera from Thornbridge, which is a collaboration with Firestone Walker from the US. And later we are going to...
I like to think it's like the representation of us.
Yes, it is. Oh, England and the US. Look at that. That's lovely. I've not had this one before either. So,
me either.
Which is a point I'll bring up in a minute. But and then later on we're going to do Stars and Stripes, which is a peanut butter and jelly porter from Northern Monk. The Pondera is from Morrisons and the Stars and Stripes is from Tesco's. Not as many beers, mainly because we could not get hold of the same beers from our same supermarkets. It was very difficult to get the same things. So I would say let's start with that point then. So supermarkets are opening up these ranges. There's Tesco's and Morrisons have probably got the best two, I would say, at the moment. Waitrose has got a fair selection. Marks and Spencer's is just getting some good stuff in. Not that I've managed to get the Arbor one yet, which I'm slightly disappointed about. Asda.
I've got it.
Oh, she's got it and I haven't got it. Jealousy, beer jealousy. Asda, Sainsbury's and Co-op I think are lagging behind. I used to remember where I would go to Asda and they would have the better selection. Not anymore. I think that was before everything really kicked off though, because they used to get all the new Brewdog ones in, so that made me happy.
Then you get yes, always good. You get Lidl as well, where it's like Lidl's got like craft beer week, and then you try them, and it's like two like decent ones, and then the rest it's all like maybe not, but they look physically from like a packaging perspective like, oh, these could all be really, really good. So then you end up going in there getting everything you can, and it's like 2 of them are good and the rest you're like, meh, like, get rid of those.
Again, I'm down in the southeast, down in Kent, and I find that we just don't get the same good selection that everyone else around the country gets. Like, I see everyone going into their Tesco's and they're like, oh, I got like, or Morrison's, I got this amazing Wild Child beer, and like none of those have made it down to here. We haven't got any of those. In fact, Pondera isn't even from the latest batch, is it? It's from the last output, and this is
the last release.
Right, I managed to get this time. They've not had it up until now, so I'm only just getting the last lot of releases down here. So
I'm cheating. I already had it from the last lot.
See, I couldn't get it. But
what I'm jealous about though is you have the Brew York one.
Yes, I had that last night. It was very lovely.
Nowhere to be found here.
Oh, it was
nowhere
delicious.
to be found.
I think we're crossing points here, so I'm going to go back. I'll carry on with this point. So, that one. So the Brew York versus Vocation Sweet Temptation, which is a chocolate caramel stout. I drank that last night. It was delicious. I'm a stout fan anyway. I'm a caramel fan as well, so very delicious. I would say that it was 6%, and the body was okay, but it could have done with being a touch thicker. Like, it was chewy, but I wanted it to be like full. But whether that comes down to quality and price point, because it's in a supermarket rather than coming from the brewery, so they're keeping, I believe it was £3.50, £4. So whether the body of it is thinner because they've used less ingredients to keep the price point down, I think this is one of the points that people are making about supermarket beers, is they are cheaper than if you got them from a bottle shop or from a brewery, but because of that, sometimes the quality isn't as good as well. So you've got to weigh up what you're getting. Yeah,
and I think just to rewind it back to the original point that we opened with about the availability of things, let's step back to the availability. It's literally, I think, as I discussed with you when we were deciding what beers we could both get, it was such a mission to find beers, literally just 2 beers out of all the shops that we could both actually get. And I mean, it was either you'd go in and shelves would be cleared, or you'd go in and there would be no stock at all because it's not been released yet. Looking on the different websites to try to find what is there, it seems like supermarkets, and I think this will sort of come up in a later point as well, supermarkets aren't even as knowledgeable about what they have, because you go on the web pages and you go into, Sainsbury's craft beer. They've got one Brewdog Punk under their craft beer section. Then you look at their world beers and they have Brewdog Elvis Juice. And then you go into their shop and they might have like a completely different Brewdog, like Quench Quake. And then they'll have Tiny Rebel there and everything else, but it's listed nowhere on the website. And it's just, it's chaos. So we couldn't even risk it with Sainsbury's because there was no way that we couldn't even showcase the lack of quality in Sainsbury's compared to Morrison's and Tesco's, because there's no way we could have gone in and got the same thing, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. I've got quite a big Sainsbury's near me, but I say near me, it's like a half hour drive there, half hour drive back. So that wouldn't have been, if they didn't have anything
50-mile round trip.
Right, useful to go get, then pointless. Yeah, I think the fact that everywhere doesn't have the same thing. Like, I get like the more specialist ones that they put out, they only send to certain stores. I assume those are more flagship stores or bigger stores around the country. That's fine. But if you're going to say this is going to be in every store around the country, then it needs to be in every store around the country. Like, and I've heard stories of not recently, but when Brewdog put out East Coast Crush only in Co-op, people were driving miles and miles to every co-op that they could get to try and find it, and they didn't find it, and that's madness. Like, it's not good for the environment. And
no, especially with their initiative, they're like zero carbon. Right. Like, I'm going to go everywhere we can to find it.
Right, let's not do that anymore. That's not very carbon negative. But yeah, just
New.
I just don't think that's definitely a con of beers in supermarkets. And then
It's frustrating because
yeah,
it's just trying to say, you see these things that are coming out and you're like, well, I am a bit curious. I'm a person that, it's not like I'm just relying on the supermarkets, but when I see something, I'm like, I want to give it a try. I want to see what it's like. But I can't justify just doing multiple trips. I mean, the first, when Stars and Stripes was released, it took ages to come into my Tesco, which normally is actually quite good with the new releases. And then it would come in and they'd say, out of stock, being released again next Wednesday. You'd go in the morning next Wednesday, you'd plan your shop around it and you'd go, I'll go get my groceries and I'll go there and I'll find it first thing in the morning when they're open. And then they'd go, sold out already, next one. And then you're like, I've just wasted my time, and I've just decided that actually going forward, I'm not going to waste my time anymore hunting them down, because there's so many other beers out there that I'm not going to hunt these few and far between out.
Yeah, and during lockdown, we were limiting ourselves to like one supermarket shop really, and our closest one is Asda, so we were doing an Asda shop, so we didn't really get any of the beers because we didn't want to trek around during that lockdown period to other places where you could be queuing for a long time. You're exposing yourself to other things, like it just wasn't worth it. So you've got to think about what's your closest supermarket as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we've talked about selection and we've talked about price points and quality. Then I think another con that people bring up is that if people are buying beer from the supermarket, it's possible that they're then not buying beer from bottle shops and breweries direct, which I can understand. Like some people will go for that, especially as they're a cheaper price point. They might buy there. That means that that chunk of your beer spending money is spent there rather than at an independent. And that can mean that there's less sales for them, might mean that they can't survive. But I think on a pro point, it means that people that are just in the supermarket looking at beer are going to have something that they wouldn't normally buy that's going to be right in their eye line, and they're going to go, oh, what's that? Oh, I'll try that for £3.50. And if they like it, that's then hooking them in to then get them into buying from the bottle shops and the breweries, because they're then trying new styles and new beers, and it will make them hopefully want to buy better quality beer when they've started. So it's a bit give and take on that point, I think.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think that there's a lot of people that make the argument, oh, well, there's not as many people that do that as you think. Well, I know people firsthand that have, and I see people on our craft beer forum pages that come into the craft beer forum pages saying, I'm quite new to craft beer. I tried this Brewdog from Tesco, or I tried this, whatever from whatever supermarket. I really liked it. Does anyone have any suggestions for anything similar? I'm very new and, wanting to explore a bit more. So, I mean, I've seen it happen firsthand on numerous occasions. So it does happen. And I think it's a missed opportunity. Again, speaking as a person that's not in the business of it, it's a missed opportunity if you don't try to take advantage of maybe marketing it in a way that you have your entry level beers, and maybe people that are stopping at the grocery store and saying, I've got this, I'm into craft beers now, I want to try some more things. Maybe you could create a range of, okay, well, here's the next step up from supermarket, and use it as an entry level that way.
Yeah, definitely. I think there needs to be that little bit of pro and con to it and give and take. And I think us more seasoned craft beer drinkers, like, we've just got to make sure that we don't spend all our beer money in the supermarket. Like, yeah, we're going to go and try out those new things, but we need to make sure that we're still supporting our bottle shops and our breweries. And then that's when, when people ask us questions, we can then be like, oh yeah, oh, you like that? Why don't you go to this little brewery? Why don't you go to this little shop? So, we can take a little bit of responsibility to it and open people up to our world. Give them.
Definitely. I would say my shopping habits, from a personal perspective, is I consider supermarkets for me as more of a fridge filler a place to go and get. I spread the love completely. I don't just shop at supermarkets. In fact, I buy very few beers at supermarkets compared to bottle shops and direct from breweries. I use it as I just need some cheaper beers I can just chuck in the fridge, and when I have company around I can mindlessly drink them and not sit there and go, oh, what's the tasting notes of this one. I use them completely for that reason, really. And it's more last minute options as well, like say you're having people around for a barbecue and you have to go get some groceries and you think, I don't have any beer. I can go to a bottle shop if I've got enough notice and get it ready. But if I'm literally on the way to somebody's house right now, I don't want to take my best, £6 beer with me. I want to go and I want to get something that's in like the, 4-6 bargain and do that and go from there. And that's really what I think for a seasoned person, that's what I use supermarkets for. I don't know about you. I don't know what your hobbies with it.
Yeah. So I'm a one and done person. So I will buy one of things and I generally move on to something else. So I will buy one of something interesting. I'm not one of these that goes in and buys one of everything new, because as I keep saying, I'm not a pails person. This one though, actually, it's not too bad considering it's a West Coast IPA.
No, it's really nice.
I'm quite enjoying it.
It's very true to the West Coast taste, I think, as well. It's done quite a good job of being I know that we're casual chit chat today, but it's done quite a good job of being a West Coast.
I was concerned that it was going to be too bitter, because that's what I find with why I don't like West Coast IPAs, is because I find them too bitter. But this has got a really lovely balance of the malty and the hoppy, and it's very it's really nice, easy drinking while we're just sat in here chatting about these things. Like I'm finding it quite nice to just sip on. So maybe I'll take back all the things I say about West Coast IPAs.
Yeah, and you'll really like it when we try the Siren ones as well in future.
Going again.
But that's for another time. It's for another time. It's not for today. But I actually, if I'm honest, I thought it was going to be quite watery, because I thought it was going to be a supermarket attempt at being West Coast, and actually when it gets down to it, there might be a heavy bitterness to it, but I also kind of thought, it's not going to be as full. Yeah. And I feel like it's a lot fuller than I was expecting it to be, and I'm pleasantly surprised, and I'm quite happy with it, if I'm honest. It's a very nice, just casual drinking chat beer.
So being a one and done person, I don't go and buy all the beers. I pick out the ones that I think I'll enjoy, but then a majority of my money goes to breweries, bottle shops, beer selling websites instead. But I will go into a supermarket if I want something simple, and something. And as well, like you said, you don't want to be taking your good beer to share with people. What if they drink it and they don't like it? No. Then they've wasted that really good beer.
That is my nightmare. That is my nightmare. It's like somebody going, oh, do you have something to drink? And I go, yeah. Let me just get you one of my good. No, you have this. It's quite good. And then you open it and they're like, it's not really for me. And I'm like, I can't believe I wasted it. Now I have to drink it when I wasn't ready.
So it's called sharing beers. So I have some that are sharing beers, and then I have my beers that no one's allowed to touch. So
I treat my fridge fillers. I go, here's your, to my husband, I go, here's your shelf. Yeah. Anything on the shelf means you can pull it at any point you want and drink it. Go play video games, pour it, do what you want. Anything below the shelf or outside the shelf is a no-no. You don't touch that. That's fatal.
You can have that when I open it and I say you can have a bit. If I say you can have a bit.
Exactly. Yeah. When I feel nice, we will share it. Not go in there.
Ruthless craft beer drinking women right here. Not sharing beers with anybody.
Oh, he's not hard off. Are you kidding me? I buy the beers. I buy the beers in this household. He gets to consume 50% of those beers. Oh well, there you go. That's marriage right there.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's put that in the vows.
Basically. But to touch on the point that you were saying about us having a responsibility as more seasoned people, I also kind of feel I know that people are against, obviously, supermarket craft beers. People in the industry are against supermarkets because of what it means to them. And I think that we can help as people that aren't in the industry but are more seasoned beer drinkers. Maybe our responsibility is when somebody comes to those groups and says, I really like this beer. I'm new to craft beer. Recommend me some stuff. We don't just sit around and say, I can't believe you buy a supermarket.
Absolutely.
Beer. As you said, we want to guide people, and I think we absolutely should, and I completely agree with you, but I also think that we shouldn't put people down for when they try those supermarket beers, because all that's going to do to somebody new, if you mock them about, oh, I can't believe you got a supermarket craft beer, is they're going to suddenly go, I'm turned off from that now, and I'm all set, and I don't like people who are snobby, and you might be very nice people, but if that's what their first impression is, they're never going to go and buy from a bottle. They're never going to go buy direct from brewery, because you've not invited them in and made them feel welcome and made them feel like, okay, they're on the starting path. And I think that's part of what our responsibility is as well, really.
There are so many beer groups on Facebook and so many accounts on Instagram. And I could do a little shout out to the group that Tori and I met in. We met in Craft Beer UK on Facebook. And I've got to say, it is, we're biased because that's where we met. But I've got to say, it is one of the nicest beer groups I've ever been in. Like, everybody is welcome. You can drink what you like. Like, we're not going to shame you for having a supermarket beer. We're not going to shame you for having a lager. You know, I mean, I've not seen anybody post to Foster's. That might not go down well, but
no, but I have seen people
but
post
even
things that aren't proper craft. They're sort of more macro. That looks like craft. I've posted Lagunitas photos there, because I've tried a new Lagunitas, and I know that technically they're not craft, but nobody has shouted me down. Nobody has made me feel like I was horrible for being like, I drink this on occasion. Like, nobody has ever made me feel uncomfortable. So maybe we're biased. In full disclosure, we both mod on that
we're both
group,
moderators
but we're not using it. Forgot about that. But we're not doing it to say I'm promoting this page because I'm moderating it. It's truly the reason I started modding on it was because I started joining, and I joined in quite frequently because of how much I liked the community, and wouldn't be there and do it if I thought it was a bunch of people that were going to put others down, really.
Yeah, it's really lovely and inclusive. And I think if you're going to join a beer group like that, you need to find the one where you feel like you fit, and we fit in that group. And there are very few that I've stayed in, because people can be very snobbish. And like, it's at the end of the day, we're just drinking beer for pleasure. Like, we don't need to be snobby. Drink what you want to drink. Drink what makes you happy, in moderation. And
you don't want to feel in your free time like you're wrong, like you've done something wrong because you've enjoyed a beer that somebody else doesn't like. And I think that's not to deviate away from the topic. Exactly, not to deviate away from the topic. If that's what you want to drink, you can have mine as well. Go for it. But I think that is part of our responsibility, is when somebody does come to us and say, I have a supermarket craft, I like it. Don't make them feel horrible about it. Use that as a positive way to guide them to something better, and not just go, that is quite good. It's really nice you found that. Here's some other options.
Absolutely. It's all about learning and growing. And that's what we're all about here at Love Beer, learning. And
that's what we're doing.
Podcast. That's literally what we're here for. Perfect. All right.
Drinking our US-UK collab.
US-UK collaboration. It's all about collaboration, people.
It's kind of.
Let's get together.
They're kind of both like that, because PB&J is very American.
Should we start that one? I'm going to put this aside because I want to take some notes on it in a minute. We're going to crack open the next one, I think. Stars and Stripes. Well, I'm going to crack open the next one. You're going to finish that. I'm going to crack open the next one. Here we go. Well, I've got it in my Northern Monk glass as well.
Oh, fancy.
Right. And I've got my Northern Monk glass. Right, so I suppose that was the nice aspects of the craft beer community. Let's have a think about something a bit controversial, like controversial brands. So through your supermarket options, there are also options like Magic Rock and Four Pure and Goose Island, who are in various ways controversial within the craft beer communities. So Magic Rock and Four Pure were bought by Lion, who are an Australian company, but they are owned by Kirin. And Amnesty International, in case you haven't heard this, have accused Kirin of funding human rights atrocities against the people of Burma. So lots of people are not buying anything made by Magic Rock now because of their parent company, which is fair enough, I think. And I think if you're going to take a stand, you've got to take it where you can.
Well, you got to take it where your money goes. That's how you
definitely got to take it where your money goes.
Where's your money going?
Yeah. So I think that's fair enough. And like so it makes me feel sad for Magic Rock because they were such a good little brewery, and you don't want to throw around the word sell out, but they've been bought by somebody, and now that's going to impact their sales. So there you go.
I think the sadder part is they've released a statement recently, if I remember correctly, where they kind of tried to say, look, we understand our parent company does this. We don't agree with it. We have no control over it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you allowed yourselves to be bought by a company that was well known for doing that. And therefore, kind of more for you. Like, you can't turn around and say, I didn't know, because you can't really feign ignorance. You should have done your research before you got bought out if you were going to disagree with it, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah, so use your cash wisely, people. Not only are we deciding whether we're going to use it at supermarkets or at bottle shops / breweries, it's whether what brands we're going to use it on as well.
Definitely.
And then we come to Goose Island, that's a completely different bag, really. So Goose Island were bought out by AB InBev, in 2011. Big beer, buying out little brand. They've kept their brand identity, though, even though they've been bought out. But that money that is now behind them means that they've been able to grow and distribute further. But I was reading some articles about it today, and there was a good point I think that they made, that beer is also about the experience, and you can still get that from the Goose Island beers when you go to their brew pubs, and their beer has stayed the same. Like, I don't think the beer has suffered because it's gone under the bigger branding. I still have a Bourbon County Stout and a Sour Sisters.
I'm going to say something a bit controversial.
Go on.
This is properly controversial.
Here we go.
I'm kind of in two minds about Beavertown as well, because I know that's like a good one to like sort of rain on the parade with and all that. I do think their quality has dropped. I'm not going to pretend their quality hasn't dropped, but it's sort of that scale, that balance and scale. The quality's dropped, so I don't tend to necessarily buy it anymore, but I'll drink it when I'm in a pub, and that's kind of your only option. That's kind of what I go to when I'm in a pub.
Right.
And the one thing that I would say about them is, like you said, there's still the experience there. They're still trying to offer the experience of craft while not being craft. And I would argue that they're actually probably more adventurous with their flavors than maybe a lot of macro craft, but macros are. Like, a lot of them just stick to like lager or pale or hoppy IPA is what they go with. And I find they go, well, let's try something different. Let's go sours. Let's try this a bit. They did their anniversary release, I think, and they did the planets. They did the solar system. That was quite interesting flavors. And I just find it interesting because they've taken the route of kind of going, I'm macro, but I'm going to double down as much as I can to pretend I'm still craft. And it is a bit hit and miss with them, I think. Don't know what your thoughts are on them. How do you feel about Beavertown?
To be fair, I've not had anything from Beavertown in quite some time, and I think that's because I just stopped buying them because they've been bought out, which is actually slightly hypocritical of me, seeing as I still buy Goose Island. I think I've just there's just been other beers and I just haven't bought them. I think they're not as available where I buy beers now.
If I'm honest, I don't go into a supermarket and go, I'm going to have that one. I did get one from a supermarket at M&S when they had that big flash sale of whatever that ridiculous for whatever it was sale, only because I needed an extra one, and I thought, I've not tried this one, so I'll give this one a go. But when I drink Beavertown, it's mainly because I'm going out with friends who don't drink craft beer. So I don't go to a craft beer place. I go to a normal pub or restaurant, and that's the craftiest option they have. But I sort of commend them in a way for continuing to try to offer the experience, even if the quality has dropped. And I feel they are at least trying to give that experience still. So I think bonus points to them for at least making the effort, even if they don't fully hit the mark.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just a massive fan of Goose Island's Sour Sisters range. So Matilda and Sophie that you can currently get in Tesco's. If you have not
got them
those,
both and I've not tried them yet.
Oh,
I've got them.
Mate, seriously, if you've not had them ever,
No.
You've never had them? Oh, crack them open. They are delicious.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
supermarket. I'll just open them next. No, they've not been in the fridge. I don't know how that.
No, don't open them tonight. Like, you need to sit and savour those. Like
Yeah,
Builder's
that's
gritted.
it. I got them when they were quite difficult.
Yeah, I had both of them originally at the brew pub, I think, and then so the ones that are in Tesco's are from 2017, so they've aged a bit, and they're the kind of complex beer where the flavours just change every time you have them. Like this, I just love that range.
I had the hardest time getting them, if I'm honest. I had to try
really?
2 or 3 separate attempts. Yeah, so I do click and collect with Tesco's. I had to try 2 or 3 separate attempts to get them both. I think I got the Matilda right away.
Yeah.
It's either I got Sophie or the Matilda right away, and the other one, every time I went, it was like out of stock. And then finally I got them both, and I'm like, they look really nice. But I've not actually had a chance to drink them yet. So yeah, funny you say that, because I've got all my beers. I'm surrounded by beers at the moment.
That goes back to our consistency thing, because my Tesco's has had them literally since the day that people said these are going to go in Tesco's. Mine has been stocked with them, so I've bought them twice over now. I've put them aside for beer tastings, and I had them almost like the day I got them. They went in the fridge and they came back out again, because I absolutely adore those beers. They're delicious. Madam Rose is from there. You won't get that in Tesco's, but that's in that same what they call their Sour Sisters range. Delicious. Highly recommend those, even though it's AB and Bev. And Lolita is raspberry. Delicious. So good. They're all so good.
Not in Tesco's. I've seen that one, because that one sounds familiar.
Yeah,
no, not in Tesco's, but I think I've seen that one. Just
sharing my love for Goose Island at the minute. Sorry, everyone.
But yeah, no. One thing I will say, back to the price point comment that you mentioned. And this is something that is a bit more, in my opinion, a con for supermarket. And I think this can kind of lead us into a next train of thought about maybe more cons around it. Price point wise, what you're paying in supermarkets now, I think there's been something where the increase in the when I say quality, I mean the quality of breweries available, the quality of craft breweries that are now going into supermarkets. Partially think they're kind of forced to do that, and that's a whole other topic.
I suppose it's a growth thing, isn't it? You want to be in front of a bigger audience, and a supermarket is going to give you that bigger audience.
Well, I think COVID, if I'm quite honest with you, I think COVID has maybe forced hands where they wouldn't have normally done it, because their sales have gone down, where they're not really making those same sales to pubs anymore. And you get one beer in a supermarket, and a lot of bottle shops will say, well, I'm not stocking your beers anymore because I don't know what you're going to start putting in supermarkets when I'm not. And I think it's sort of a vicious cycle where the more bottle shops stop stocking you because you've put one beer in a supermarket, the more you have the need to return back to the supermarket, because
that's a good point.
You're not getting those same sales anymore, especially when you have pubs that maybe might be buying your beers no longer doing so because of COVID. I mean, obviously that's started to change now, but what's going to happen if they start imposing the 10 p.m. restrictions they're talking about? Is that going to harm things even more when more breweries are going to have to turn to try to get in supermarkets? I don't know. But the point I was going to make about it was more price points on them, because they've had an increase in quality of names that are going into supermarkets. Their price points are no longer, £2 to £3. It's, £3.50, £3.50, up to even they've got Omnipolo now for what, eight quid. And yes, the Omnipolo is going to be for a specific audience, and that specific audience will be the type to go to a bottle shop. But everything that's kind of below that, between £3.50 and above, if you spend about a quid more, you can get better quality beers direct from a brewery or direct from a bottle shop. So does the supermarket actually add that much value add anymore, beyond just bringing people who aren't in the know already? Sort of, what's the value add to that? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's also so I'm going to come at this from an angle from knowing a little bit about Brewdog, having been a presenter on the Brewdog News podcast as well. So I know a little bit about what's happened with them. They're all over the supermarkets, but they've been all over the supermarkets for a long time. but they've got more in there now, and they've been getting bigger beers like Roaster Coaster and Layer Cake out into the supermarkets. However, their online sales on their own website were not as good as selling through their bars, selling through supermarkets. And at the beginning of the year, like even before COVID was happening, they were trying to get more people to buy the headliner beers, so Punk and Elvis Juice and Hazy Jane, from the website rather than from supermarkets. But people pointed out that on their website, their standard beers like Punk were more expensive than just going to the supermarket. So why are you going to buy it from the website if it's more expensive than going to than picking it up in your regular shopping? So they did a bit of a they leveled out the prices. So they did this as COVID was happening because they needed those sales, because like I think it was 80%, 70%, 80% of their revenue was lost overnight because it came from bars, and it came from their bars, and it came from the bars and pubs that they sold to. And so they had to do something about it to survive. And so they changed the prices on the website, but they also cut the discount that Equity for Punk shareholders could have, but that it leveled out depending on what you bought. But like, that's an interesting point, that if a brewery is selling it more expensive than you can get it in the supermarket, certain people are not going to buy it from the website. So they've got to have, and also the Brewdog shop on their website has never really been a very good online commerce website.
No.
Everyone complains about it. It's terrible. We're all aware that it's really terrible. But
do you want to know what's funny? I know about all those complaints by listening to your Brewdog podcast, because that was one of the first ones I listened to.
We literally complain about it all the time on the podcast. We just complain about the shop. That's almost all we do. If you want to come and listen to my other podcast, we complain about a shop. No, there's more in there, but you have to be a Brewdog fan to listen.
There was more in there, but that was the very first episode I listened to.
Literally
was about the hit on the shops of COVID. I was
always.
like, that explains so much.
Yeah, but before that, we were complaining about the web shop as well. It's horrendous. But so if you're a brewery and you're trying to sell your stuff online, you've got to have a decent commerce website, and you've got to have decent prices. So there is that against, like, I'm not saying you've got to lower your prices past what is how much that beer is worth. But if you're going to be in a supermarket and on your own website, you've got to be competitive. Otherwise, why are people going to come to your website to buy from you?
And that's it. And I guess in that situation, like, I very much understand as a consumer. I mean, once you factor in the shipping costs on some of these, so say
add that on top.
Average shipping, call it £5 is average. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. Sometimes it's free.
I paid £8.50 last night for a shipping for one that I ordered last night. That's the most I think I've ever paid.
I always just go to the point where it says staggeringly good, not a supermarket beer. This is definitely controversial because it's not a supermarket beer. So I went to get the teeper from Staggeringly Good, and the shipping is £7.99. But if you spend however much, £30 or something, shipping becomes free. I was like, wow, £7 or £8. That's basically the price.
That's basically a beer.
So take my money, I'll go broke, give me free shipping. That's fine. So anyone out there that wants my business, if you just go free over a certain amount, I'm suddenly like, I'll still buy from you if it's not free. Don't get me wrong, but I will hit that threshold, because to me, I'm like, oh, that's a free beer. I might as well just get the free beer out of it.
Sometimes it's 2 beers. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. This was the teeper. It was like 1 and a bit beers, but I'm excited for that. That's separate. But I mean, I guess my point is it's one thing when you say, okay, once I factor in shipping as well, and it's more expensive direct to brewery, obviously I'm going to go to a supermarket for it, aren't I? But then on the reverse, it's kind of, okay, if I'm going to pay £3.50 for a deeper, it might taste all right, and I might be like, yeah, this is really great as far as supermarket standards goes. But if I just pay, £1, £2 more, that taste from a bottle shop, from a brewery, is going to increase. I found that when I've had those similar beers and I've paid £1 or £2 more for the same style from a bottle shop or direct from brewery, the quality has gone up. And it's not to say the supermarket quality is so bad it's offensive and I don't want to drink it. It's just that I would actually sometimes rather spend more money to get it from a bottle shop. It's not much more money. I guess what I'm saying is the cost savings isn't really, you're not saving a massive amount anymore, are you?
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's that savvy shopper. Where are you spending your beer money?
Yes.
And consumers have just got to make that decision.
Exactly. And I guess that's for me where it becomes fridge fillers or last minute things that I need. I tend to go direct to brewery or bottle shop unless it's a situation where, like you, one and done, I want to try this new thing, or I'm going to a barbecue and I need it now and I'm going to get a bunch of fridge fillers for now. But I think overall, I'm not really saving a lot of money doing that. I'd rather just go, Siren's my local, is obviously I've preached about it so many times. I'm going to just go there and I'm going to pick, my beers up from there instead, because it's only, it's comparable. A lot of their beers are £3 to £4 range anyways. So I'm not really, losing much more.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So basically, as consumers, you have options. So you've got to decide where you're going to spend your hard-earned beer money. You can do it on some interesting ones in the supermarket, or are you going to do it at a brewery or at a bottle shop, or you can do a combination of both? You decide where you're going to spend your hard-earned beer money. It's all up to you. And
your money counts. Just remember, your money counts. Where you spend it counts. If you go to a bottle shop or you go to a brewery, just know that you are supporting them, you are keeping them afloat.
Absolutely.
But likewise, if you choose to go to a supermarket, no judgment zone. Yeah, that's what's right for you. That's right. What's right for your habits, and that's fine as well.
Drink tasty beer, people. That's what we're saying. Don't drink.
I like this.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Quickly, what are your thoughts?
So I really love this one. It's got such a lovely jammy. I'm smelling it. It's got such a raspberry jam nose. I said in the ice cream pails episode, I'm a sucker for
you love raspberry.
I love me some raspberry, and I thought this was going to be strawberry, but there's more. It's got strawberries on the can, but it's definite raspberry. I love it.
Raspberry jam.
Yeah, and then it's like there's that.
You get the nuttiness, and you get the
nuttiness. And there's a very light bit of roastiness. It's really lovely. It's light, but really full of flavour. I really enjoy it. This is my second one. I actually did get this the first time it came round. So this is my second one. I love this. I like it.
I would say that maybe it's to do with Northern Monk. I feel like regardless if it's in a supermarket or direct from a brewery, Northern Monk, smash it.
I was about to say, but it's Northern Monk. So this is what we expect from Northern Monk. And that's the thing. If you're going to get a brewery that you know are fantastic, then you're going to expect even their supermarket beers to still be fantastic. So well done to Northern Monk for keeping up the quality no matter where they sell their stuff. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's sign off there then. So, Miss Tori, if people would like to contact you, can they get a hold of you?
They can get me on Instagram at adventures_in_hoptimism. And how about you?
Me, I am a woman's brew on Instagram and Facebook. I am also the head educator of Love Beer Learning. Please come find us at Love Beer Learning on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also find our website, www.lovebeerlearning.co.uk. Feel free to email us any questions or comments you've got about the podcast to lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. And please subscribe to our podcast so you can keep hearing all of our lovely beery goodness that we're going to share with you. Right, until next time, cheers.
Cheers.